Denson was not always a place of ruin and horror. Once, it was the crowning jewel of the world, an empire feared and respected called Athesia. And at the heart of its fall stood Mordaine. She was a keeper of an ancient magic, chosen at conception to bear a power far greater than any mortal was meant to wield. Yet the more she strove to master it, the more that power mastered her, warping her life, breaking her spirit, and twisting her into the very thing the world would one day fear. In the end, that corruption brought Athesia to ruin and left it in ash. But her true beginning was darker. Caraphis was an aerial woman, one of the winged folk many called gifts from the gods and held in near reverence. Lestian was a Sophisan pirate of the horned and tailed people, whom the devout scorned as devil-born, cursed for their likeness to ancient evils. Thus were the two peoples held in the eyes of the world. The Aerials exalted, the Sophisan despised. Yet Caraphis rebelled against all such order. She spurned the favor of her own people, committed blasphemies as if to draw the gaze of the gods in wrath, and made fellowship with many Sophisan. In time, she gave her heart to Lestian. Together they defied custom and creed, joining in what they called holy matrimony. Though many would have named it an abomination, they sought to conceive a child, but none came. When nature denied them, they turned to dark magics. They hunted old tales and forbidden whispers, crossing lands in search of powers thought only legend. At last they found one, an ancient magic known as Euphoria and Genesis, a power said to create magical life itself. With that ancient force, they wrought life in Caraphis's womb. But as her time drew near, Lestion abandoned her and the unborn child, and was seen no more. Caraphis, broken by grief and despair, turned upon her own rebellion and sought to end her life. Yet she held herself in check long enough to give birth, and when at last the babe was born, a daughter bearing both Sophisan and aerial traits, Caraphis looked upon the child with disgust. She named the child Mordaine, meaning unholy. Then she laid the infant at the doors of the king and queen of Athesia and vanished from history, never again seen nor heard. Now the king and queen had long yearned for a child, and had not been blessed with one. So when they found the babe, they received her with great joy and called her Madeleine, raising her as their own princess. Yet even in childhood, Madeleine was no ordinary girl. As she grew, terrible magics came from her as naturally as breath. Her power was raw, ruinous, and strange. Ofttimes she would create hideous monstrosities without meaning to. Things so unnatural that the royal guard had to put them down in secret lest panic spread through the capital. The king, in his wisdom and fear, possessed a hidden means to curb her power. An ancient throne, said to be forged by the gods themselves, which could alter the agrios in subtle ways. Through use of that throne, her powers could be muted and restrained, but never wholly silenced. When Madeleine reached the age of 6, her recklessness and the danger of her powers became too great for the people of Athesia to bear. Though the king and queen loved her dearly, they were left with no choice but to send her away. She was sent to Glondrim, one of the islands of the Athesian Rim. There she was placed in the care of Teleo, a Neko-lion master of magics and a trusted friend of the king. Under Teleo's roof, she was raised among many siblings and under the watch of 3 mothers, the wives of Teleo. In that strange but lively household, Maddie found something like a second home. Teleo trained her diligently, teaching her to govern the storm within, yet now and again her power would slip its leash. In her sleep, terrible things would be born, beasts and demons that crept from nightmare into flesh, and set upon the village in the dark. Teleo, being a scholar as well as a mage, delved into ancient lore to understand what manner of power she carried. In time, he discovered the truth. Maddie had been ordained a keeper, a chosen vessel of the ancient magic Euphoria and Genesis, the same power said to create magical life. Knowing what was at stake, Teleo put the girl through rigorous training in her youth. As she entered her adolescent years, he took her even on militant expeditions, that she might practice and sharpen her gifts in harsher conditions and learn mastery through discipline. At 15 years of age, the common age of adulthood, Teleo urged that Madeleine remain in his care longer still. The king and queen of Ethesia, trusting him, agreed and signed off on the matter. Though Maddie had grown fond of Teleo and loved him as a father, she did not like this decree. Then came the night that changed all. In her sleep, Maddie suffered a grievous episode. From her power was birthed a great and terrible monstrosity that ravaged half the village, leaving many dead. The king of Glondrim demanded that Maddie be held accountable. Teleo resisted. So too did the king of Ethesia. What began as a question of justice became a fracture in the empire itself. The Ethesian states divided in loyalty and judgment, and great political unrest spread through the realm. Pulled from all sides, blamed, defended, feared and controlled, Maddie broke. She fled the islands by night and was not seen for near 3 years. Many tales are told of where she wandered and what befell her in that lost span, and legends differ in every tavern and court. Yet the account most believed to be true says this, that she fled to the northern lands during a great mage war, and there fell in with a company of dark mages. Among them, she found a tome written by a mage called Densun, who had also once been a keeper of an ancient magic. In his writings, she found not only knowledge, but permission. Thereafter, she cast aside the name Madeleine and took up again the name her birth mother had given her, Mordaine. From that hour forth, she believed the Ethesian Empire was hers by right, and she resolved to claim it. It is said the king of Ethesia received 3 letters in 3 days. Each letter came from Mordaine. Each warned him that if he did not willingly surrender the empire into her hands, she would return on the 3rd day and take it by force, and so she did. On the 3rd day, Mordaine descended upon Ethesia with dark mages called Arbrowaries, and a vast horde of monstrosities shaped by her own ancient power. The siege was swift and merciless. In no more than 24 hours, Mordaine seized full control of the greatest empire in the world. Ethesia's allies could not answer in time. Its northern allies were already consumed by the Dark Mage War. Its allies in the Monarchy Islands were beset by a massive kraken. Kaipos and Watu, though allies to Ethesia, were simply too far away to render aid before the empire fell. Ethesia was overthrown faster than word could travel. By the time many kingdoms learned what had happened, it was already done. And with Ethesia gone, the world began to splinter. For Ethesia had been the glue that bound many kingdoms in trust, trade, and peace. In its fall, suspicion took root. Allies looked upon one another with doubt. Old fears resurfaced. Borders hardened. Whispers of treachery spread from port to palace. In time, Ethesia itself was spoken of by another name, Densun. For the island came to be rotted through by evil magics, and none dared tread there for fear of waking the evil that slumbered. The Ethesian Rim, once noble isles beneath imperial protection, became known as the Shorkle Islands, a haven for pirates, thieves and outlaws fleeing the reach of law. They lay close enough to Densun that lawmen kept their distance, but far enough that rogues believed they could survive there. Yet even so, it is rumored that evil spirits haunt those islands and terrorize the nights. Some whispered that Mordaine would one day use the Ethesian throne to destroy the world itself, but the decades passed, Then more decades still, there came no sign of world-ending ruin, no great disturbances in the Agrios, no marching armies from Denson, no proclamation from Mordaine, only silence. And yet to this day, travelers remain wary of that cursed island and dare not sail too near, for those who venture close, so the stories say, have never returned.
An aerial maiden loved under the sky, a sore fossil man who was not meant to fly. They held to their love, though the whole world asked why. Oh, she who could not be loved. The king took the child and called her his own. The queen gave her comfort, her hearth and her home. But her power grew wild, so they sent her alone. Oh, she who would not be loved. She rose out of sorrow and answered with flame. She shattered Ethesia and blackened its name. Now some say she's dead, but still whisper the same. Oh, she who should not be loved.